Hey, it's your host, Heidi Hoffman here. I hope you're having a fabulous week. And if you just got engaged, congratulations. I'm so glad you found your way here to this episode of the Florida Wedding Podcast. As I said, I'm your host, Heidi Hoffman, and I own a wedding photography and videography company called Pine & Forge based in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm here to make wedding planning super, super simple by providing answers to common questions, by sharing advice, ideas, and solutions for your unique wedding, because we all know that every wedding is different, and by connecting you with Florida vendors who are ready to join you in your celebration. Today, I have Anna Taylor here with me, who is a Sarasota-based wedding planner. I met her for the first time at one of her micro wedding events last year, and to be honest, I've been a little bit obsessed with her work ever since. She puts together these micro weddings, and they are fantastic, so I can't wait to have her tell you all about that and how they work and why they are the best new trend. Before we get too far into it, though, I do want to quick thank Basic Invite for sponsoring this episode. A lot of couples get engaged this time of year, and Basic Invite is the place to go for affordable, custom, save the dates, invitations, bridal shower stuff. Like literally, there's going to be so much to celebrate in 2021, and you will want to send out invites, whether you're gathering virtually or in person or both. So Basic Invite has everything you need to invite your favorite people to celebrate with you. Use the code PINEandForge, that's PINEANDFORGE, to get 20% off your order at basicinvite.com. Alrighty, let's have Anna introduce herself. Tell me who you are and where you live in the state of Florida.
All right, so my name is Anna Taylor. I am living in Sarasota, Florida currently. I've lived here for about 20 years.
And talk to me about your business. Like, how did you get started? How did you get to where you're at today?
So I am the owner of Tailored Affairs. I started in 2019. I actually got married March of 2019. So that is like where I totally found the wedding industry. I had never really heard of it or had any interest in weddings, honestly, until I started planning my own wedding. I was actually a teacher for 2 years before I jumped into the wedding industry, and I just totally fell in love with it. I saw there are so many creative people in it, and it's just such a great place to really showcase all your creativity. So that's where I just totally fell in love and decided that I wanted to be a part of this industry.
So what happened after you planned your own wedding and you were like, oh my gosh, I love this? What was the next step for you? Did you shadow some people? Did you just take on something small? What happened?
Okay, so I have to say I'm quite ambitious. A lot of the reason that I also didn't want to be a teacher anymore is because I just really didn't want to have a boss anymore. I've kind of always just wanted to be my own boss and make my own schedule and do things the way that I want to do them. So instead of shadowing somebody or working with a different company, I really just decided to jump in and do it all myself. I did do a certification course through UCF for wedding planning. So I did do some education. I got certified to be a wedding planner. But then other than that, I actually started my business as Toasted Affairs. But then I did go through some rebranding last year to switch to Tailored Affairs. It was a lot. My husband, honestly, he was, Taylor is it's our last name. It should be part of your business. So cool. So he really kind of got in my head there. And I was like, yeah, that is a better name.
Yeah, I really do love it. Tailored Affairs. I think that name is brilliant and it suits you totally.
Yeah, the only downside is a lot of people always think my name is Taylor instead of Anna.
It is true. I'll be honest. I have to think about it every time I reply to an email. And I'm like, it's not Taylor. Whatever you're typing, don't type Taylor.
I know. It happens all the time. People are like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's not a big deal. It is my last name. But yeah, so I really love the name. And then I actually met a girl in California. I was doing a retreat in November who does branding and design. So I kind of had her revamp the Tailored Affairs look with some logos and new colors and things like that. So now it's officially Tailored Affairs.
That feels so good, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That feels so good.
It was so great to kind of outsource that and give it to someone else to get a fresh perspective.
Oh, for sure. I love that you trusted yourself so much to just dive straight in. That's really awesome.
I was already 26. I was like, I don't want to take a couple more years to train and work for someone else and then start my own when I'm 30. I was like, I'd rather just do it now. And I was just also really excited. I was like, I just want to start. So
awesome. So tell me a little bit more about all of the services that you offer. What do people come to you for the most? And what are some things that you offer that maybe people don't really know about?
So I offer 3 packages, the full thing, which is full planning, the in-between, which is partial planning, and then the month of, which is pretty similar to day of coordinating, but I do a little bit more than the average day of coordinator. I like to kind of come in 6 weeks before and really get a sense for your wedding and who you're working with and how you want the day to be. So that when I come in and work with you guys, it's not just that day and I don't really know what's going on. I want to really make sure that I feel comfortable with everything that's going on and can answer any questions for anybody if they ask me. So those are my 3 packages. I would have to say that the month of is still the most popular just because a lot of people and brides and couples, when they start planning their wedding, they think they can do it by themselves or they're not really familiar with what my job even is. So they don't really see a need for it at the front. It's a lot of times more towards the end where they're like, oh, wow, like I am overwhelmed and I don't know how I'm going to get this all done. I don't want my family and friends to be doing stuff on the wedding day. So like we really need to hire somebody to help us. So a lot of those month of clients kind of come in a little bit more towards the end. But now that I've been around for a little bit longer, I am seeing that the in-between and full thing are becoming more popular too.
There's a trend right now. And I feel like maybe it's been lingering for a little while, but right now, at least in the last year, because of COVID, it's kind of come to the surface there. And that's those micro weddings. And we've worked together on one and you do it so, so well. What sparked that idea for you?
Thank you, Heidi. Yeah, I really love that we got to work together on October, the pop-up at Lovelock Ranch. That was actually my first one. So it was definitely fun to kind of have you come in there for the first one. I did also do one in November. So I've got 2 under my belt now. And then I have 2 more this spring, another one at Lovelock Ranch, and then one actually at White Rock Canyon. It's a new venue up in like a North Tampa, Bushnell area, which is just getting like so much love right now. It's a really cool venue. So the micro wedding package is just like, I mean, totally something that when I started wedding planning, I never thought that that's like something I would get into or didn't even know the word micro wedding in 2019, honestly. But it's something like really cool. And I really can see myself doing this like in the future, even after COVID life, if we ever get there. It's just like a really cool kind of all-inclusive package. But the reason I call it a pop-up is that they can be at different venues. I'm not exclusive with one venue right now. I like kind of being able to pop around to different places and get different vibes and different kind of moods and designs from the different venues that I'm at.
So let's back this up a little bit because maybe there's some people listening on here and they're like, okay, Anna, Heidi, what the heck is a micro wedding?
Yeah, totally understand. So the micro wedding package is an all-inclusive package that is at different venues. I usually post them anywhere from 6 to 3 months before the date. So it is kind of similar to an elopement situation where it's a little bit spur of the moment and kind of spontaneous because you're not taking that typical like 1 year to plan your wedding. So the package, as of right now, they're at a $4,500 price, and it includes video, photo, light appetizers, drinks, rentals, and officiant, live music in the venue. So much is included. Pretty much everything you would need to get married in a day, other than your dress and like hair and makeup, is all included for you in that price. Where we get the term micro wedding is kind of the guest count. So what's included in my package is 25 guests. That's including the bride and groom. You are able to add more, but I like to keep it under 50. That like 25 to 40 range is super intimate. I mean, you definitely still have your family and your friends there. It's just closer family and friends. And then another big difference between a micro wedding and a big wedding is instead of it being called a reception, I kind of call it a cocktail reception. So there are still places for people to sit and eat, but it's more casual. There's no seating charts and there aren't seats for everyone at like 60-inch rounds. It's kind of a more intimate space with maybe like a lounge setup or one long table, a couple cocktail tables inside and outside. It's more of a space to mingle and kind of celebrate than sit down and have that formal dinner.
And what are couples saying about the micro weddings, the 2 that you did, October, November, and you had several couples get married? What do they say afterwards? Why do they love it?
When I kind of started the pop-up micro weddings, I really thought it was going to be a event for couples to come in with a couple family and friends, do their ceremony, get married, relax, celebrate, and then probably push to have like a bigger reception or a wedding a year or two after it. That was just like what I came in with thinking that people were going to want to do. But actually, most all the couples I've had were like, oh my gosh, this was the best wedding ever. They're like, I totally feel like I got everything I needed from this. Like, this was our wedding. Like, thank you so much. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, that's so great to hear, that this thing that I planned for them could be just as fulfilling as their like full wedding day.
Yeah. And most of them are just doing the micro wedding. They're not having this wedding and then a bigger reception later on, or are they?
Yeah, I think all the ones I've had so far actually have just used this as their wedding. And that's just totally what they're doing, which is so awesome to hear. I love that I was a part of it and got to help them kind of fulfill their wedding needs just from the micro wedding.
It really does feel like everything that you need for a wedding. When I was there at Lovelock Ranch in October, you had all of the little beautiful elements that a couple would want in their traditional wedding, except for it was just like less than half a day. Explain how it works, because you host several in one day, right? So how does that work?
Yeah, so I kind of structure it out so that there are 3 time slots, and they're totally first come, first serve. So when the bride or groom reaches out to me and says that they're interested in that date, I kind of show them like, hey, I like to call the first one kind of a brunch slot, and then we have a mid-afternoon, and then like the evening slot. So a lot of my couples that are like, oh yeah, we want to dance and party, I'm like, the evening slot might be more your vibe. Some people are like, we just want to get those like beautiful sunset photos. I say pick that mid-afternoon. And then we have some people who are just like, we'll do whatever one you have left, which sometimes is the brunch slot. I also really like that one too, because you can still plan a large dinner later on that evening. You can still totally celebrate the whole rest of the day if you want. It's a good way to start your day.
I remember I did a beach wedding, and it wasn't really a micro wedding. I guess you could say it was, because there was not a ton of people there, but they had a brunch, and then it was so fun because afterwards they went and played beach volleyball, and then they had a nice dinner, and it was just a fun, casual time. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm a huge brunch lover. So whenever I get a brunch wedding inquiry, I'm like, oh yes, that'll be so fun. Just like a really good way to start the day. Everyone's got the nice day lighting. You can kind of dress a little bit more fun. And then you can still go and do whatever you want that night. It just doesn't have to be as big and extravagant as the wedding days that we're used to.
What time does that start? So for a brunch wedding, your early time, what time, like for hair and makeup stuff, what time does a bride start getting ready for that?
So for the 3 slots that I have, now sometimes these times do change. These are the ones I'm doing for right now. It just kind of depends on sunset, things like that. But the first one is 12:30 to 3, and we do allow the bride to come 30 minutes before. I suggest they come with full hair and makeup. Just number one, because it's too time constraining to get your hair and makeup done there. Also, when you have all that extra stuff, that takes up more time too. So I say you come with your full hair and makeup, and you can put your dress on there. We can still get some of those like beautiful detail shots of you getting ready. Someone zipping up your dress, playing around with your earrings, putting those on. You can still get all those shots. And then we do like to start the ceremony like right at that time slot. So 12:30. The ceremonies are, typically anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. It just depends on if you're adding in any kind of ceremony rituals, or I did actually have one of the brides decide to bring her grandpa in and use him as the officiant. So it's not a very strict, you have to use all the vendors that we have provided in the package. I'll totally work with you on customizing it if you want. So say you have someone that you want to marry you guys can totally do that. And then from there, I like to do like a big group shot of everyone, because we can kind of fit everybody in with the micro wedding guest count. So that's kind of how I like to end the ceremonies. You do your recessional, you guys are pronounced, and then we do a large group photo. We break it down into some smaller family photos that you want, and then really just kind of focus on some couples photos so you guys can get all the images that you want from your wedding day. While you guys are doing that, everyone else is invited over to the cocktail reception. There'll be drinks, appetizers that they can start getting into, and live music, which is such a fun part of it.
It is. I really do love live music.
Oh my gosh, I know. And it's so much more affordable than hiring a large band for your wedding. But yeah, so then we'll introduce the couple back in. We like to do a first dance still. So, they have that traditional fun moment and then kind of let them go right in, celebrate with everybody, mingle. We do provide a cake also, so they can still cut their cake and keep that as kind of like an anniversary cake or to enjoy later that evening. And then from there, it'll just kind of be free, open to what people want to do until 3:00 would be that slot. And then we do provide an exit. So for the day slot, the 12:30 to 3, we did like a confetti exit. I got a bunch of like dried florals and put them in the little paper cones, and they kind of threw those at the bride and groom, which was super fun. Love those pictures.
Pretty, really pretty.
Yeah. And then for the later time slots, when it is dark and the sun has set, we do the traditional sparkler exit.
Okay, so then my next question is, and you touched on this a little bit, what do you say to a couple who want something similar to what you're offering, but maybe they want it on a different day or they want to swap out a vendor?
So I do always tell the bride and groom that if they want to swap out, some people are very picky about their photos or their food, that they are allowed to do that. We don't change the package price just because I do usually contract the vendors for the whole day. But if they want to bring somebody in, they're totally allowed to do that. And then I do offer like a lot of enhancements too. So say they want a lot of food. They're like, you know what, we want light appetizers, but we want also maybe some salad or some extra sliders, things like that. They're allowed to add in extra food if they want. And then usually what's included is 2 glasses champagne or like 1 signature cocktail. But if they want to add on a full bar or a cash bar, extra drinks, that's also like allowed too. So I do really make it so that they can customize the vendor and the products that are going to be there. Design wise though, I do really tell them to pick the time and the day that's going to pick their style. I try to make each pop-up have a different like theme and design to it. So I can speak to like a lot of different clients and they can get excited about new ones that I post. The kind of mood board is a big part of why I love doing the micro weddings because it allows me to be really creative and to come up with new, fresh designs for each one.
Yeah, and you include a lot of popular elements too. I mean, just everything that you create is beautiful. So,
thank you, Heidi.
It's true though. It's so fun for me because I'm such a visual person. So I show up and I'm like, oh, there's so many things, there's so many beautiful things to photograph, and I love it. And so nothing that you have posted of your mood boards or the things that you're planning for the future have felt out of place in any sort of way. Like they're just wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really try to use these as like a huge like creative outlet for me. Kind of like if I was planning a styled shoot with somebody where I can get really excited about something, a bouquet I see or rentals I see, color palette, and just like totally take that and design like a whole day styled around this design.
Okay, I want to take it back to a little bit more of a little bit general planning, not necessarily micro weddings, but what do you say to a couple who has just got engaged, because that's kind of the season that we're in right now, but they have no idea where to start? What do you tell those couples?
So what I try to tell couples is honestly to try to take like a couple weeks or a month when you first get engaged just to relax and let it all soak in. Because once you start wedding planning, it just goes really fast and there's so many things to do that you kind of focus on just your wedding. So I love telling people, so happy that you inquired with me the next day. Love that. But I think it's so important too to just kind of take a little break. I know like when my husband and I first got engaged that next weekend, we went and stayed at a hotel and just kind of like got to relax and unwind a little bit just to kind of soak it in. Like, hey, you're getting married. Like such a fun time when it's about to get really crazy and busy. So just to kind of take some time to relax. So that's the first thing I tell people to do. Other than that though, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, let's plan this wedding. Let's jump in. So the first thing I really tell couples to do is to either pick a venue or a date. I have some brides that are like, I will only get married on this day. Like I've always pictured getting married like March or this specific day. So if that's your case, then you have to realize that you're probably going to need to be a little flexible on the venue. Or if you're like, nope, I just want to get married somewhere cool outside or on the beach, something like that, then to be flexible on their date and just find that perfect venue. And then we'll look at what they have available and go from there. So that's my biggest advice. Find your venue and your date because you can't really do a lot of things until you have that date and that place. After that, that's when it's just kind of photographer, food, officiant, if you want a band, DJ, everything else can kind of trickle from there.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. There's definitely something to letting that whole engagement high simmer for a little bit. I too love the couples who like reach out to me the next day, basically. But also, you want that time to like let it simmer a little bit and kind of imagine your day a little bit so that when you do inquire with your planner and your photographer and videographer and florist and all of that, that you kind of have like at least a general direction. You have some details to give. Otherwise, they're going to wait on those details anyways. They need that in order to be able to move forward in the conversation.
For sure. Especially because I think a lot of like modern couples these days have really talked about marriage a lot before they actually get engaged. So they might already be on the same page, like expectation wise, what they want from their wedding, budget, things like that. But there are those couples still that are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea he was going to propose. Like, we haven't talked about what we want to do for a wedding at all. So taking that time to kind of nail down exactly what you want from your wedding is really important.
And you touched on this a little bit, but I want to ask it again, just in case someone missed it. But what do you say to a couple who says, I've hired all my big vendors and my wedding is 3 months away? Why would I need a wedding planner?
So what I really harp on is I don't believe that every single person needs a wedding planner. You might be a super type A person and you're like, I want to plan it all. I want to really dig deep into this and I want to reach out to everybody and make a mood board and do all the things, which is totally fine. But I truly believe that every single person needs at least a coordinator. Just because you can plan and plan and plan, but if you don't have a coordinator on your day, you're going to have the florist calling you and saying, hey, I have the bouquet and the boutonnieres. Where do you want me to drop these off? You'll have the caterer asking you how you want your table set. You'll have to see everyone drop off all their things and you just won't be able to be totally present and relax with your family and friends in the morning, get your hair and makeup done, not be all sweaty running around and kind of putting escort cards on plates and things like that. So I truly believe that every single person needs a coordinator at least. Even if you're only having 10 people, there's still so many things that go on that day and you just need someone kind of in your pocket to help you out when you need it. Some people are like, I really want to be heavily involved. And when I get brides like that, I kind of steer them more to the in-between package because with that partial planning, you have me there with you, organizing you and guiding you along, but you can still ultimately make those kind of design and vendor decisions to the people that you reach out to.
And what about someone who's on the fence about these micro weddings? What if they're like, that sounds like a good idea, but maybe what if my parents aren't totally down for nixing a bunch of their friends from the guest list?
So what I have to say to a lot of people sometimes is your parents already got married, so it is not their day. If you guys are totally okay with there only being 10, 15, 25, 30 people there, then that is so your decision. And you guys are probably going to have just as much fun as if you had 175 people there. Because normally when it's that kind of amount, you only get to talk to people for maybe 10 minutes. Whereas this, you get to really focus on your closest family and friends for 2.5 hours, which was really awesome in my opinion. So I have to say, yeah, it might be a little bit scary for some people when they're like, we're going to do a micro wedding, just 25 people in 3 months. But what I love too is you can kind of ride on that excitement and that thrill. You don't have to wait a year and you're going to have this beautiful day for you that's super budget friendly and it's going to be super stress-free because it's already totally planned out for you.
Yeah. And honestly, some weddings that I've seen, there's really no more than 25, 50 people up moving around, mingling, dancing anyways. So you just got to cherry pick those people that are that are going to have fun and really make it special too. So
yeah. And it doesn't always have to be the people that you see every day in your normal life. You might still have some people that are like, oh my gosh, they live out of state, but I need them there. And that's totally fine. I had one of my micro wedding brides, they literally all flew in from Kentucky. So they weren't even Florida natives and they still found this opportunity and were like, wow, this sounds so much fun. So it's a mini destination micro wedding.
That's perfect. It's so perfect.
Yeah, it really is. You get beautiful Sarasota, totally on a budget and with beautiful designs, amazing vendors, and just enough time that you guys need for your day.
One other last question. Okay, maybe second to last question. Generally, what is your best advice? Are there things that you would like to say to couples that usually gets missed, or things that couples don't necessarily think about that you love sharing? Any final best advice?
Best advice would be number one, hire a coordinator. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously though, it'll really help take out that stress. Just because a big thing for me for weddings is that everyone just like really should be totally present that day and soak it in, because it goes by so fast, which I know by the time your wedding shows up, brides are like so sick of hearing that. Like everyone just says it goes by so fast, but it really does. So that's why it's so important to really be present. And one way I really like to help my couples do that is to kind of plan into the timeline, like maybe a 15, even 20-minute kind of break just for the two of them, just to like have fun and kind of relax a little bit. Maybe after your first look, kind of stepping back and giving them a little bit of time to kind of soak it all in. Maybe before that reception entrance, give them some time to kind of freshen up and just be alone for a second. It's like sometimes you haven't seen each other for like 8 hours yet. So it's like you have so many things to tell them and kind of clue them in on like how your morning was and things like that. So I think it's really important to make sure that the couple gets a little bit of alone time, just even for a couple minutes, to kind of soak the whole day in and really like take a second and be like, wow, like we just got married.
Yeah, pause for a second, because you really are kind of being shuffled from one little event to the next, one little moment, and then you got to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's why it goes so fast. So taking that time just to breathe, chill, it's a good idea for sure.
Yeah, totally. Just be like, wow, we actually just got married. Because sometimes it's like, okay, ceremony's done. Let's go take pictures. Here, let's do this. And it's like, you didn't even like register yet that you guys actually just said I do. And like, you are legally married.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're just kind of shuffling to wherever someone else tells you to go next. This is what we're doing. Yeah, that's just how it happens. It's not really a bad thing. You just got to take a moment, as you said. Lastly here, where can couples find you and how can they connect with you online?
So I have to say the biggest like platform for me is Instagram. I've kind of just pretty much always been obsessed with Instagram since the app was like ever developed, just because I'm so visual. I love pictures. I love seeing everyone's like beautiful designs, and I love being able to, comment and like things that I love. I love now that you can share photos on your story, which I'm constantly doing, so that brides can see inspiration and things that I love and would love to do. So Instagram is probably one of the best ways to see me. I really try to go on there too and talk on my stories, share like tips and tricks, things that I'm doing. And then I do have a website, tailoredaffairs.com, and I'm on Facebook, Google. I did also sign up for the Knot and Wedding Wire, so I am on there too. But then, yes, I just tell brides to inquire on my website. It's really always the best way. Sometimes I'll post Instagram stories and I'll get a bunch of DMs and they just kind of get lost in there, which I'm sure you're super used to too.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so the best way to reach me is to inquire on my website. It goes right into its own like special folder, which I check all the time. And then I use Honeybooks to kind of send out my welcome guide, and then we go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on here and chatting with me, your advice and your tips. I know couples are going to love and just find really helpful, especially about your micro weddings, because I think about them almost daily. They're just brilliant.
It's something that's really been fun for me, just to be able to be so creative and come up with these really beautiful days and kind of see the fun couples that are like so willing to take this chance and opportunity. And then honestly, the reviews and feedback I've gotten from them has just like really solidified that they are something that's really serious to consider, because they're super fun. You kind of can get everything you need from it. They're really budget friendly, and it's a really good way to get that design that you want with a good price.
If you weren't sure about that whole micro wedding trend before, and now it might just be the answer you were looking for, please reach out to Anna for more details and get that conversation started. I promise you, it will be worth it. Before you do that, if you love this episode, if you found one piece of advice on here helpful, please share this episode, take a screenshot, post it on your Instagram or Facebook or wherever you hang out the most. Or better yet, send a link to this episode to someone who just got engaged, and maybe a micro wedding might just be the perfect thing for them. Who knows? But share this episode and let's find out. One final shout out to Basic Invite for sponsoring this episode. You can get 20% off your custom save the dates or invitations by using the code Pine and Forge at checkout at basicinvite.com. That's PINEANDFORGE for 20% off at basicinvite.com. For more episodes and wedding planning resources, head to floridaweddingpodcast.com and stay connected between episodes on Instagram and Facebook at Florida Wedding Podcast.